Good day, everyone. I'm your host, James Hicks from Hicks New Media, and welcome to Perspectives in Focus, where we highlight the people, industries, ideas, and the technology that are making positive strides within society. Today, I'd like to welcome back Mr. Lance Alstodt, the President, CEO, and Chairman of the Board for BioRestorative Therapies. BioRestorative Therapies was founded by scientists and researchers committed to developing stem cell therapies to address the unmet needs in patients with highly prevalent conditions. Under Mr. Alsted's leadership, they've uplisted from the OTC to the Nasdaq and are now allocating proceeds towards more clinical trials. I'm looking forward to this discussion because the company is on a high trajectory and doing good things. Sit back and let's get into it. Lance Alstodt is on the video, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my gosh, this is a good day. Sir, how are you?
I am fantastic. And it's so nice to be back with you, James. Appreciate you taking the time and inviting me onto the program.
Thank you, sir. I was doing my research and going back and said it was December 21st of 2021, the last time that you and Francisco Silva were your chief scientists were on. And to put it vaguely and frankly, a lot has happened. You have done some pretty good things with the company, and that's at the core of what Perspectives and Focus is. Like I say, right, highlighting people, industries, and the ideas that are making positive strides, and that should be your mission statement, right? Because that kind of is biorestorative.
It certainly is. We undertook a huge project, and that is to really solve chronic lower back pain and
Mm,
to address metabolic disease like type 2 diabetes and obesity and a whole host of other metabolic related diseases. So for us, it's really patient first and people first. And if we can all make a little bit of money while we're trying to be doing positive things for society, that's good too. But my background has always been in healthcare, always been trying to find large sectors that are growing, that have unmet needs, that we can find unique, proprietary, and novel solutions to really address those needs to help society. And we feel like we've landed in two particular categories. One is in orthopedic and avascular related pain, as well as metabolic disease. And we feel like we've got the right solutions to address those. So you're right. The last time we were here, we had just done an uplist. We
yeah.
raised $23 million in connection with that uplist onto NASDAQ. And we've done some really unique things in terms of drawing clear and connected lines between how we've spent that money or how we've deployed that capital into some really unique shareholder value creation opportunities. We have done things like we have built an ISO certified 7 clean room manufacturing facility where all of our subjects we will manufacture the products for these subjects in connection with our phase 2 clinical trial for lower back pain. We have identified close to 15 clinical sites that we've contracted with in order to work with us in connection with our trial. We've built out our entire leadership team. We've replaced our board of directors. We've replaced our scientific advisory board. We've made tremendous strides. We're actually using our manufacturing facility now as a mechanism to generate revenues, working with other regenerative medicine companies as their contract manufacturer. So we have really taken on a lot over the last 12 months as it relates to really driving forward in our clinical programs and finding ways to really maximize our potential given our infrastructure. We still have a tremendous amount of capital on the balance sheet to continue to prosecute all of these clinical trials. And it's just an exciting time for BioRestorative. We have a very important upcoming milestone that we can talk about as we get into the discussion that I
Yeah.
think is somewhat of a binary opportunity for us as it relates to safety data on our primary clinical trial that's going on right now.
Okay. So I guess let me ask this because you mentioned quite a substantial bit of information there, and I want to pull back some of the layers there. So all of those changes, I guess, in terms of building infrastructure, in terms of replacing individuals, either from an executive side and from the board perspective, that was done as a result of the uplist, or that was done as a result of clinical trials and research moving forward, or again, just moving into bringing in folks that are following the new mission, following the new directive for where
Sure.
BioRestorative is going. I guess let's have some clarity in terms of why some original individuals, original locations, original directives are no longer there, and opposed to why you've gone in a new direction.
So that's a really good question. And it's really just in terms of building out the right team to take us to the next segment of our evolution. And we originally started off, we went through a bankruptcy process under different leadership. We had some historical folks that were still within the company, both from a board perspective as well as a management perspective. And after evaluating the game plan and what needed to be done. We just wanted to match that business need with the right human resource. And we feel like across all of the different areas where we're focused, we have the A team on each one of these projects, spearheading these projects, including under the leadership of Francisco Silva from a research and development standpoint. So we have both from a financial perspective, from the research side, from the quality side, from the manufacturing side, every aspect of the company, we have brought in what I feel is the best of the business and folks that are on board and in line with our corporate goals.
Yeah.
We're very happy with some of these changes. It's those changes are not only within human resources, but they're across the entire organization because now we are at a point where we are in the trial before we hadn't even started the trial. The last time we spoke, we hadn't even really gotten organized for the trial. So now we're in the midst of the trial. We have already treated 4 patients. We
Mm.
have a safety review board meeting that's coming this month to evaluate the safety profile of the product. And if we're successful, then we open up enrollment and there's a whole host of really exciting things that are coming down the pike. So the company is just moving very quickly, expanding, we're growing. We have more people that are on board now in order to address the needs of the company, which have changed so substantially.
I love that. And I appreciate you for going into detail because those are some things that, again, if you come in and you start looking at it from the financial investment perspective, right? You've got folks that have actually put dollars and cents into the company. They want to know how you have moved from that previous direction. And I knew about that, but again, I don't ever want to assume. So having you come out and say, we've made these right moves, we made these right choices and these decisions, and we now have a point where we're actually treating clients, which is phenomenal. Because, like you said, you weren't even at that point yet. That just brings clarity from my perspective, right? If I was someone that was invested in a company externally, that brings clarity in terms of where the direction is going and confidence in the leadership and things of that nature. So that's really good news.
James, what we've done, and I think what we've done well is we've been very transparent with our
Hmm.
shareholders and the public markets. And we've told them what our goals are. And we have done a really nice job executing against that plan and achieving those goals and then communicating what the results are. So we're not going to get on a show and talk about things that we intend to do and not complete them. It's really important from a credibility standpoint and just from a driving shareholder value perspective to make sure that what we say we do and we do it in a time frame that makes sense. And by the way, not everyone's perfect. If we fail, and we do embrace failure because it's science, and if you don't, then you shouldn't really be in this business. But we understand that could be a possibility, and we just communicate. We communicate what's going on with shareholders, and I think that's resonated very well. If you look at our share, if you bought a share of our stock at the beginning of the year, you've probably doubled your money by now. And I don't want that to be a reflection of the company being overvalued. In fact, it's just the opposite. I think people are starting to hear our story. It's starting to resonate and they understand this technology and how powerful it is and what the opportunity could really look like. And people are starting to accumulate. So that's where we are. I think we're massively undervalued relative to the intrinsic value of our technology and what we can do with this and how many lives we can really treat. And it's very simple. It's very intuitive. And the more people that hear the story and learn about our mission, I think the more confidence that we're providing.
I love that. So let's not even beat around the bush. Let's get to that point, right? Because that's it right there, the story and the value that you're bringing to society. Let's talk about those four individuals at an abstract level, right? We're not going to talk about them by name. We're not going to talk about George, Sue, and Ann,
Sure.
those kind of things. But
Sure.
what are you doing for them in terms of providing support, comfort, healing, and things of that nature? What is
Right.
BioRestorative doing for them? Is it, again, it's injections? Is it pill? How are you helping those individuals, and how can folks understand more in terms of what you're actually doing?
So those four patients are part of our safety run-in, which is a component of our phase 2 clinical trial.
Mm.
Our phase 2 trial happens to be a 99 patient prospective randomized double-blinded controlled study, which is the best of its kind under the auspices of the FDA. And we've been asked to do a safety run-in for the first sentinel group of four patients. Now, these patients all qualified for the trial. They have to go through a very specific inclusion exclusion criteria. So they've all qualified, they've been enrolled. And what we've done is they've presented with a single disc injury or pain. Everyone can be different. It could be a laceration of a disc, it could be a bulging disc or a herniated disc, it could just be chronic pain, but it all centers around one particular disc in the lumbar part of the spine. The product and the procedure is really the following. They come into their spine specialist, they receive a bone marrow aspiration, a very modified bone marrow aspiration where we're able to harvest the most incredible cells within their body called mesenchymal cells, which have the ability to do a whole host of things, including deliver a tremendous amount of therapeutic benefits to where they get implanted. So we'll take those cells and we'll do a simple blood draw and we'll bring them back to our ISO certified 7 manufacturing facility at our corporate office. And we will isolate those cells and condition those cells to endure the very harsh elements of your spine. Your spine and your disc, your avascular zones in your body are these very harsh, low oxygen, low circulation, low pH environments where cells don't really have the ability to proliferate. So what we do is we take those cells and we condition them to survive those harsh elements by exposing them to a very low oxygen tension, maybe 5% oxygen tension called hypoxia. And what those cells do in hypoxia is they transition into a newly defined cell that has certain therapeutic benefits that aren't present when you culture and expand them in normoxic conditions. And
Mm.
what are the therapeutic benefits? They're anti-inflammatory properties. They are increase in circulation. It's the ability to remodel the extracellular matrix. So all of these great, therapeutic benefits that will alleviate the pain at the very source. So the generator of the pain, not just treating the symptoms, but really focused on healing the actual problem, which is the injured disc or the diseased disc
Okay. Okay.
degeneration. So we create this product, we cryopreserve it, we get to the tune of about 250 million of these cells. Then we take the batch of about 40 million. That's the institutional amount that gets delivered. We combine it with the patient's own autologous platelet lysate, which are like part of your blood draw. You have platelets. Well, we lyse those platelets or we crack them open and we bring forward all the therapeutic benefits. We combine it with the cells and we ship it back to the facility, the clinic or the hospital, wherever the procedure takes place. And under fluoroscopy, we will deliver through a 25 gauge syringe an injection directly into the nucleus of the disc under fluoro. And it's amazing. We have looked at some of the data. We're blind, so we don't know who's received the product versus who got the control, which is saline. But it's in this portion of the trial, it's a 3-to-1 randomization. So 3 patients received the product, 1 received the placebo, and the results, are what we've been studying and what we're going to look at and what we're going to present in front of the safety review board, the DSMB, at the end of the month. They're going to analyze it. We're going to get an opportunity to present to them And coming out of that meeting, we will have a result. They will either tell us, go back to the drawing board, guys. This is not ready for prime time. That's a very possible result. Or redo another 4 patients, which would be very expensive and take a lot of time. Or they could advance us into an open enrollment environment, which is what we really hope. But look, like I said, this is science. We'll collect all of the data. We will be meticulous about this process, and we will put our best foot forward, and we'll present to the DSMB, and hopefully we'll move forward. But this
Love
is
it.
a binary event for the organization.
And anything, like you say, even in science, especially anything worth accomplishing is going to take a little bit of time. And you've got to go through that due diligence. Let me
Sure.
ask about the pool of individuals. Now, is that something that's been closed and it's no longer accessible and open to new entrants? And seeing results and seeing kind of status, is that something that's available to third parties removed and to the general public and things of that nature? Or is that something that's going to come more at the end of the month? Just wanting to know how to see the progression of what the company is doing as of today.
Sure, sure. It's a, like I said, it's a 99 patient study.
Mm.
We have 4 that have already been treated, and now we're going through the safety review board process. If we get the green light, we will open the enrollment up. We have about 25 patients in the queue that have been pre-screened, but we will actively be recruiting from one of our 15 clinical sites on a monthly basis, new
Okay.
patients to enter into the process. We will notify people where the sites are, and some sites will advertise, some sites won't. But people who have issues with respect to lower back pain have the ability and the accessibility to get into the trial if they qualify.
Okay. And are you locked in and focused right now initially on US base?
Yeah, it's all US. It's all US based. So I should have clarified that. Thank you for mentioning that. So it's up to 15 sites in the US and 99 patients in the US. And the results will be, we'll make an announcement coming out of the DSMB for good or for bad. We will communicate with the public and let them know how that DSMB meeting went and what the results are. And thereafter, we won't be able to really communicate data until 1 year post or 12 months post the last patient has been dosed.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
there'll be some time that we'll be enrolling patients, manufacturing the product, harvesting the cells, and then injecting and dosing these patients. So that will take a course of this year and some portion of next year would be my guess based on enrollment statistics.
Makes sense. And are you
Yeah.
focused on one specific technology and treatment as of right now for the organization, the lower lumbar, the lower back, or are you, do you have
So the
multiple
good
branches?
news, yeah, it's a great question. So the good news is coming out of the safety review board, if we're successful, what we've done now is really establish the safety. Pardon me, that's my phone. It should have been on. What we've done is we will be establishing the safety profile of the product. And by doing so, it gives us the opportunity really to leverage this technology
Mm.
platform across other indications within the body. So while today we're focused on the lumbar section of the spine, we have interest in seeking an FDA IND approval to get into the cervical part of the spine. And we have conversations ongoing with key opinion leaders who have enthusiastically reached out to us and said, guys, if this is safe and you make this determination, why wouldn't I put it in other avascular zones of the body? And what we're talking about here are hips, knees,
Come on. Here we go.
shoulders, extremities, and then it becomes something really big and really interesting. And what I love about it, and this should be clear for people listening, this is an autologous product. This is your cells,
Mm.
taking your cells and effectively supercharging it and putting it back into a part of your body where those cells just can't proliferate on their own. So we're not taking a third party cell, an allogeneic cell, a cadaver based cell. We are taking your own cells. So the expectation is that the bioenvironmental match is what's really going to drive safety and efficacy of the product. And what we don't know about third party cell or cadaver based cell is what we don't know. And time will tell in terms of rejection and match and all the things that we worry about in terms of longer term data. we feel really good about the autologous product. And I think that the providers are very excited about that, as well as patients have a strong preference for their own cells than anyone else's.
I would agree with that. I would agree. Are
Yeah.
Let me ask this, and again, this is a layman question, and just someone third party removed. What are the dissension that you may be receiving, right, from folks unaware of what they don't know? So again, you're really talking about some earth shattering, game changing type of therapies and procedures that can folks that have gone for many years with chronic lower back pain or whatever the case may be. There's got to be the doubting Thomas out there, right? There's got to be someone who's in your ear or Francisco's ear or just that's trying to close the curtain. And how do you combat that? What is the answer to, again, folks saying this can't be done, right? When we know, well, I don't want to answer the question for you, but again, what is it that you're hearing from the external forces that are continuing to drive you and the team to continue to push forward?
Yeah. I'll answer it a couple different ways. This is a fairly easy sell, both to the patient as well as to the practitioner, because they've been waiting a really long time to get something like this, which is sophisticated, elegant, single intradiscal injection into the nucleus of the disc, because the standard of care today is just simply not working. And if you present today with chronic lower back pain and it's a degenerative disc related issue, you're going to see your spine specialist, and he's most likely or she's most likely going to write you a prescription for some pharmacological opioid or anti-inflammatory. And we all know that story. 100,000 Americans each year die of opioid addiction. That
Yeah.
problem is getting a lot worse, not better. And alternatively, there are injection therapies that are recurrent, like PRP and steroids or epidurals. And when I say recurrent, I mean, you're getting these injections maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and they're expensive, and insurance doesn't necessarily cover them all the time. And after you've exhausted that whole side of conservative therapy, you go all the way to the other side of the spectrum, which is surgical intervention. And what we're talking about there are fusions, discectomies, laminectomies, motion preservation devices, replacing the disc with an artificial disc. And the revision rates on these procedures are more than 30%. That is pretty tough pill to swallow if you're about to get surgery and you're going to be 30% probability of failure.
Yeah.
And what happens is the insurance companies are starting to push back on those procedures, and the patients are having to go through all of these extra diagnostics just to prove the necessity for these procedures because of the high revision rates. And everyone loses. The spine device manufacturers lose because they're losing mind share with their surgeon customers. The patients lose because they have to go through all these diagnostics and suffer the really traumatic experience of these open invasive procedures that may not work and have to go back for revision surgeries. So what we're presenting is something very unique and very novel, and people are welcoming it. There's more people in support of what we're doing than raising those questions. But the questions that do get raised are really around cellular therapy in general.
Okay.
And cell therapy is somewhat nascent. It's the beginning of this industry, and it's being done now, not haphazardly like it was maybe 10 or 15 years ago, which was bedside by a practitioner who was taking a harvest and spinning it in a centrifuge and reintroducing it back to the body. The FDA has clamped down on those people tremendously. And what they've done is they've been in support of companies like ours that are doing it the right way under the auspices of the FDA, such that they can be very carefully regulated, very carefully manufactured and produced and choreographed in such a way that we really understand the characteristics of those cells, what those products really look like, how to inject them or how to implant them, and what exactly is going into the body. So it's being done in a much different way now. So the negatives are really around, hey, we haven't seen much in cell therapy in the past, but now we're really starting to see data. And it's not just us, but other companies in cell therapy, i.e. the CAR T space, they're getting really differentiated results as it relates to efficacy. So that's what we expect to get. That's what we expect to see. And for example, the big hospital systems that we work with, The surgical intervention suites used to be the main focus of these hospitals, but now they have these interdisciplinary orthopedic focuses with regenerative medicine really being the quarterback on top of that. We're starting to see a real
Interesting.
push from an institutional perspective that they understand that cell therapy, regenerative medicine is really the wave of the future for this particular indication.
Good stuff. And the word you used, efficacy, that was really the word that I was looking for and wanting to use because just again, not wanting to assume, but wanting to have that dialogue and have the conversation coming from you as well for folks who are interested, who need this, who want this for whatever reason. And to hear that under the auspices and under the guidance and under the observation of the FDA, that this is no longer what it was 10, 20, 30, maybe 40 years ago, that this really is that next wave in terms of treating some of these conditions. And for you to be at the forefront, I'm going to say it, at the forefront for doing some of these therapies and things of that nature, that's the conversation right there that, again, will alleviate some of those naysay and help folks who are suffering. Because that's what it's all about, right? It's about the
Look, we
folks who
are,
can't get out of bed
yeah,
or whatever.
we're pioneers in the space. We are doing something extremely novel and proprietary. We are doing it in a way that is carefully thoughtful and calculated as far as what it is that we're putting into the body. We can characterize it. We can institutionalize the number of cells, and we can
Mm.
differentiate between the components of our product and talk about what's happening. And we'll continue to study it. This is not this is a work in process. This is a validation process through the phase two. I cannot make claims that this will work for everyone or that this will work at all until we do the work. So right now we have 4 patients under our belt. We're studying the results. The results will be made public through a variety of different means. I will probably send out a press release at some point by the end of the month that talks specifically about this safety review board meeting that we're having and the results of it. So if this looks good, then we go to open enrollment and then the barn doors are open and we're going to really be in the thick of validating this really important technology that's going to have such a huge impact on society.
When, not if. When that happens, make sure you got your sleeves rolled up, right, Lance? Because I got a
Yeah,
feeling the phone is going to be ringing and it's going to be a good thing. But so let's drill down real quick again, because I do want to be cognizant of your time, sir. But yeah, you're at the precipice of an announcement. But let's talk a little bit about, again, more specifically about where you are today. What the, I'll say the, if that's the only part of the news or some additional pieces of the conversation and the advancement that you're doing. Let's talk a little bit about that right there. What specifically BioRestorative is doing today and tomorrow in the short and midterm.
sure. So obviously this is a big binary event that we have for the company. A lot of our attention is focused on our phase two trial. And more specifically within that, it's the safety run and data that we're going to be evaluated for. But coming out of that, if everything is positive, again, we establish the safety profile. We can broaden and leverage this technology into other indications. And we talked about those avascular zones, the hips, the knees, the shoulders, the extremities. We'll look to explore all of those different indications. On top of that, that what I would describe as musculoskeletal health platform, we have another platform, and that's our metabolic health. So we have a brown fat program. It's called Thermostem. Now, brown fat is let me back up. You have white fat and you have brown fat. White fat is the fat that we try to lose, and we work out and we eat healthy and we try to lose our white fat. Brown fat we're born with. And brown fat has been known and proven to regulate metabolic homeostasis in the body. It creates heat. We're born with it. And as we get older, we start to lose the reservoir of brown fat within our body. So as you get older, that's the reason why we start to have some of these metabolic changes. We gain weight. We have type 2 diabetes. We have hypertension. In women, there's polycystic ovarian syndrome and a whole host of other diseases related to metabolic change. Our goal is to study this and to, like in musculoskeletal health or lower back pain, come up with the right cellular therapy solution to address that loss of reservoir of brown fat. So what we've done is we have the largest brown fat tissue bank in the world, and we have taken some of that brown fat tissue and we've isolated the mesenchymal cells from it. And we have created brown fat adipocytes that have been put onto a 3D matrix and have been implanted into the fat pads of mice. So these mice were fed high fat chow in order to have a certain BMI to be considered obese. And we implanted this 3D matrix with the brown fat adipocytes in it into their fat pads. And what we learned is that the mice lost weight. The mice lost their blood glucose levels were drastically reduced. We lowered their triglyceride levels as well. And we published this in Stem Cell Journal, which is a very prestigious scientific journal within our segment. We're very proud of that. This is a very partnerable program. We have had conversations with big cap pharma, people in this space are companies like Novo Nordisk, Pfizer, Eli Lilly. So all of the large cap pharma companies are very focused on obesity right now and type 2
Hmm.
diabetes. I'm sure you're familiar with Ozempic, which is an
Hmm.
injectable drug used to treat a variety of metabolic issues. So we have a metabolic program, but it's not an injectable, it's a cell therapy. So we continue to develop it. It's preclinical. The goal is to accelerate it by the end of the year, have a pre-IND meeting with the FDA, and hopefully be in the clinic, maybe a phase one at some point in 2024. So this is
Wow.
a huge
Wow.
market. I don't think we're getting a lot of credit for it in the public market today because it's preclinical. But as we start to advance this program and we start to show the power of this brown fat cell in connection with things like obesity, which is one of the largest, most important healthcare sectors that affect patients, millions and millions of patients across the country and the world, we think that we're going to really unlock a lot of value that's inherent within this technology.
Amazing. Amazing. That's
So we've got
good stuff. Yeah.
those two programs that are very active. And on top of which we have this active manufacturing facility that has certain licenses that enable us to do certain manufacturing for other regenerative medicine companies as a way to really manage some of the burn that's related to our facilities. So it's an important part of what we're going to be doing going forward. We've got a number of really interesting discussions going on with other regenerative medicine companies where we can support them in a variety of different industries, cosmetics and other cell therapies. We're really excited about the future. I think it's a very bright time for shareholders of BioRestorative. Our family is excited. We're growing, we're focused, and we have some really meaningful events coming.
Well, speaking of events, I know you're going to be speaking, or are you going to be speaking? You sitting in Francisco there, right?
I think we're going to divide and conquer. If
Okay.
I do it all, I feel like we're missing out on certain expertise that he has, especially as it relates to the metabolic programs. There's a metabolic roundtable discussion that will be held. I believe it's next week at some point. I could be wrong on the exact dates. I'll have to check, but Maxim Group, which is an investment bank, they're hosting a roundtable discussion. The analyst is Jason McCarthy. He's probably one of the greatest minds in regenerative medicine. He covers our company from an equity research perspective.
Mm.
And just so we don't work with Maxim, we don't have an investment banking relationship. This is a completely independent research relationship that we have with the company. And they've asked us to participate in a roundtable discussion on the metabolic industry. So we're really excited to do that. We do things like this all the time. We meet investment bankers, we go to industry related conferences, we speak at a variety of different media events. And one of the things that we've pledged to our shareholders is transparency and keeping them updated on a regular basis. So we continue to do that. That's a point that drives home for us.
Great deal. All of my questions have been answered. And I had some specific questions that, again, I wanted to get at that 201 level. So not just at the what's on the website. Again, some of that meat and potatoes, Lance, I really wanted you to get into. And you, again, the word transparency there. You really were able to do that and have that frank discussion in terms of where you were, where you are, and where you're eventually going. And the what you're I'll just say it, what you're using that money from the uplist for and seeing some progression on that. So that let me give you those flowers on that just for again being a man who does roll up the sleeves and get that work done. I think this is going to bring about more questions, and I think that's a good thing because again, you're in the stem cell therapy business, and that is still so breaking and so new, and folks have conversations and have questions, have doubts, have concerns, but also have hope, and probably want to be involved in some of those forward thinking and forward moving test trials and things of that nature. Where can folks get in touch with the team, find out more information in terms of what you're working on and things of that nature?
Sure. I always say you can reach out to IR@biorestorative.com, which is our investor relations portal. And we all roundtable some of those emails and questions where we respond to everyone. So it's a good way to do it. You can also call our company. The number is located on our website and speak with anyone really. We can direct the calls to the appropriate person. But look, we're excited. We like to talk to people. We want to hear what's on people's minds as it relates to this industry, because this is a very evolving industry where people's input are really important. From a molecular biology perspective, we are really excited about some of the strides that we've made, and we continue to perfect and evolve our products. And we're really excited to look at the data. Look, if we validate this technology the way I expect that we will, the opportunities are endless. And I think that is going to create a scenario where some of the large strategic players generally in the pharmaceutical and orthopedic and pain management space are going to need to have very serious conversations with us about how we commercialize and how we distribute and how we take the company to the next level. And our job today is really to validate the safety and efficacy of our technology through this phase 2 study under the auspices of the FDA, and continue to maintain that level of focus and be meticulous about everything that we do within the organization.
Lance Alstodt, you're doing good work. I'm
And
just
so
going
are
to,
you, my friend.
I'm just going to put it right there, but you are doing good work. And you are, again, I'll use the analogy, you're rolling up the sleeves, you're out there telling folks what you had to go through, right? The hills that you had to climb through, and then you're not done, which is phenomenal, right? And the fact that to be so far along from when we had the initial discussion back in 2021, back in December of 2021, to see where you are today, actually treating patients, actually providing value to society, actually having conversations about putting money where your mouth is, so to speak, right? That's a
Right.
huge thing, and I want to give you
Yeah.
give you those kudos on that.
And I'm a big investor in this company. So to that point, I care very much about what the investor thinks, because if the investor is positive, that usually means that I'm positive. And if the investor feels like there's been an issue with the valuation of the company or the stock or the investment, that means the same. I'm in the same boat as everyone else that owns a share of the stock. So we're all aligned. We all want this to be great. I really appreciate you giving me a broader audience and a voice to communicate all the work that we've done and the strategies that we have to continue to do good things for people. I would love the opportunity, without taking too much of your time or your audience's time, but as we continue to go through these key milestones and these big checkpoints where we continue to make progress, we'd love to come on board and talk more about it and share it with your audience, because I think really affects everyone.
Lance, you have keys to the front door. You have
Thank you.
code to the front door. You show up anytime you want to, sir, and we will fellowship and
Super.
break bread and have that conversation. And I appreciate that. I'm humbled by that as well. And I look forward to, again, asking those hard questions, asking maybe those awkward questions, but again, having you respond to those. Next time we
Absolutely.
will have a live audience so folks can contribute and actually engage. But keep doing the good work, sir. I will talk to you
Awesome.
soon. Stay on the screen backstage and we will talk a little bit more. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, James.